one of your roles as a cooperative extension specialist here at Cornell is to help people in the community, and especially in New York State, since we're a land-grant institution, come to understand what's going on in nutrition science and in nutrition generally. And so I imagine you've worked a lot with these dietary guidelines, and you have some brochures here that a lot of people will have seen, especially if you're in the US. You'll have seen food pyramids or food triangles or food plates that involve recommendations and guidelines from the government, and which we're taught in school and other places that we should try to follow. So we're curious to know more about where those come from and who it is that comes up with them and what the politics are behind it and so forth. So maybe I'll just let you start by saying what these guidelines are and how they get generated.
Well, many countries in the world provide some type of dietary guidance for their citizens. In the United States, that advice is in the form of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. And it's a policy document that is issued every 5 years by two departments, the United States Department of Agriculture and the United States Department of Health and Human Services. And the secretaries of those two departments are responsible for developing this policy document. The first time that Dietary Guidelines for Americans was issued was in 1980, and it was fairly controversial because all of a sudden the government was telling us to eat not so much of certain foods, or don't eat too much sugar, don't eat too much fat. And I don't think we were sort of used to having that kind of advice. And some commodity groups were also felt that their particular commodity that they represented was being attacked. So it took a little time, but eventually the government. And the first time that the dietary guidelines were issued, a group of experts were convened, and experts in nutritional sciences and related fields, and they came up with their best expertise on what they thought the public should eat. Since then, the process and the sort of level of detail in developing the dietary guidelines has evolved quite a bit.
So how does the process work? You said that there are these two agencies that are responsible. How do they select the experts, and how do they deal with lobbying from various industry groups and so forth? Is it a big, complicated mess like all governmental things, or?
It is a complicated process, but what they've been doing, it's been increasing in complexity, but it's also been increasing in transparency. And starting in the 2005 guidelines, they started using the Nutrition Evidence Library as the source of the research articles that they're going to look at. And what they do, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, those meetings are public. The public can give comment. People can come to the meetings, watch them on a webcast. They can see the results of the committee's deliberations. They can see how they came up with their conclusions. And they use the systematic review process as starting in the 2005 guidelines, where someone can really follow the science and see how they came up with the conclusions that they're basing their recommendations on. So the report itself, which just came out in February of 2015, on February 19th, it was just issued. That report has now been made public, on the web, and anyone can now comment on the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee's report. It's still different than the dietary guidelines, which will come out later, and the secretaries will take the report, they will take the additional input from stakeholders, which could be consumers and industry, other federal agencies, and they put all that into their final dietary guidelines for Americans document. And then here's our current Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which is a 100-page document. There's like 23 recommendations for all these subgroups. This is considered a policy document for nutrition educators, health professionals, policymakers. This is no longer considered the consumer publication. So if you look at the advice, what has changed, over the years they added physical activity as an important component, or food safety. Or more recently, seafood has shown up in a specific recommendation, and that wasn't in previous ones. So as we learn a little bit about sort of omega-3 and omega-6 fats, that information has fed into some of the guidelines.